Check the description for any articles I may post in the future, and come to your own conclusions. But something that I thought of was universal basic income, and its relevance in the Democratic Party. I think it's interesting that it's even an idea that people are considering to be valid. I think it's an interesting thought experiment, maybe the first time you think of it. But I think a problem is it's a question of value creation, and where does value come from? I don't think we're at a point where markets are so saturated that there's nothing left to do. I think we're far off, and we may never even reach a point where ingenuity ceases to be something that's relevant to people. I think we're at a time, especially with the emergence of the internet, really not being that long ago, and its prevalence being something that's too old. But as a universal basic income, just shifting money to the poor, giving people a stipend just to live, I do not think would be something that's beneficial. I think it'll more just be a tax on industry and high net worth individuals in general. I think a lot of individuals are people who are not paying taxes in general. I think a lot of the wealth is already coming from people who do. When it comes to taxes, I think just distributing, shifting more money downward is not going to help value creation. Are people going to reinvest it into themselves, or is it more, is it as productive as just letting people work? It seems to be more of just an excuse to tax people. And whenever it comes up, the question is, it is an expensive type of policy, and the question is, where are you going to get the money from? And I think a lot of the time the answer is we don't care. And people are just who are pushing the policy tend to just take it for granted that you can't just make money out of thin air, or if you do, it's inflation. Otherwise, you're going to have to tax people, and it seems too expensive of a policy to really implement. And even in a moral sense, why would you take money from somebody just to shift it to somebody else? It seems just in essence that it's more just organized taking, in that there doesn't seem to be a purpose or use other than this is just the beginning steps of just socialism, just in a fancy new term, universal basic income, implying that everyone's getting it. It's an elementary type of thing, and it's a good, it's an income. But really, you're just taking away from your neighbor, whoever. And I think it's just that sounds like a race to the bottom, because there's just going to be, you're taking from people just to give to other people for just the reason that, it seems to be just another entitlement that doesn't seem to serve a good purpose. I'm sure in some instances it will be a benefit to others, but in general, it seems to be more hazardous on the people that you're taking from. They have to do the work. They're entitled to, the benefits of the risk that they took. There's people who are taking risks, and there's people who aren't taking risks, and it's nobody's. It's up to everybody to decide what type of risk they want in their own life, and the type of effort they're going to put in, and I think a lot of times you can really determine your fate by hard work and ingenuity and smart planning and strategic decision making. But I think taking money from wealthier people and shifting it to people who are poor isn't necessarily going to increase productivity at any level. And as a result, it's going to be a net negative, because it's just, I think it's more hazardous in that you're trying to even a playing field that naturally should not be even, in a sense. Not that there shouldn't be some type of there should be a wealth gap, but it's how big is I guess the question. But I don't think it's for people to regulate. I think it's based off of did you put a good or product or service uh, into the market, and did people respond accordingly? If people are willingly giving their kind of unit currency of their unit of value, their currency over to you, in exchange for a good. I mean, you didn't have to produce the good, and they didn't have to give you their money, but they did, and it was considered a mutually, beneficial exchange. So, and very consensual. Whereas opposed to, I think universal basic income starts to seem like it's more going to be onus on people who do not want it, giving to people who may or may not deserve it. It's more just, do I deserve $1,000 or $2,000 from the person to my left or my right just because I would like it?